Okay, Dimitri, previously you were talking about subatomic heat ignition, quantum level heat expulsion. I believe hydrogen, you're saying hydrogen. There's something to do with hydrogen and quantum level heat expulsion that creates a force, polaric force. Is that what you're saying? Yes, at the subatomic level, he says. Yes, at the subatomic sub. I'm wondering if, I think part of the issue might be that you're trying to communicate this information in a way that I can understand, as if you're talking to me. And of course, I don't understand it because I don't use these scientific language. It's not part of my vocabulary. So I'm wondering if perhaps if you speak as if you're speaking to an audience that understands quantum mechanics, and the scientific principles that you're discussing, then maybe it will come through in a way that is a little more coherent. We're just going to do a bit of a message just to clarify these kind of elements, see if we can create a bit more clarity. And I'm wondering, like, what am I going to do with this information? You want me to share the information? Share the information, yes. Okay. With anyone in particular? No, just see where it goes. Okay. All right. Okay. So at the same time, he's giving me this idea of like, there's multiple levels to, there are multiple purposes to sharing this information. It's not just to give information, it's to demonstrate that the kind of information that can be channeled through an individual is at a level that their physical mind does not understand. And so it's opening this kind of doorway, this idea that via channeling, we can gather information that is of a much higher level or much higher state of consciousness or much more advanced level than our own understanding. And, if this is a mechanism that we can use in society to advance ourselves, to gather information, knowledge, wisdom that is actually beyond what our present self has the capacity to understand, then we can use it to help ourselves evolve at a much more rapid rate. It seems to be a theme here in rapid evolution. So it feels a little bit like he's saying you're being an example of what's possible. And although we're at the beginning stages here and the messages may not be entirely coherent or clear, there is a level of understanding that's coming through that is at a much higher level of intelligence and awareness that your physical mind does not understand. And it's demonstrating that this is possible. Because much of what we see, aside from Bashar, much of what we see in the channeling world is quite metaphysical, and non-evidential. It's interesting to learn about the idea of dimensions and how they work and which beings come from different dimensions, etc. But we don't have any way to prove that information. But if we channel information that is about our actual reality, that is more grounded in our experience and our potential growth within, a near time, maybe the next 10 years, then we can actually evidence that, yes, this information is coming through from a higher level and it is appropriate and it is useful to us and it has relevance and it can be evidenced at some stage. So there's, as part of the purpose, not just the sharing of information, the actual kind of information, but that is part of the information. So I'm starting to get a bit of a headache, so I feel like he wants to come through. You are referencing or pontificating on the scientific explanation beyond that of your present conscious state. Yes, I am, Dimitri. That's what I'm doing. This is not entirely our mission, but of course it will be an aspect of, it will be part of the process that occurs. Our goal here is to provide solid information that supports the evolution of humanity in ways that they are able to accept it. This is an important factor, that the communities that require this information are able to accept the information in its given form, and the utilization of the consciousness of individual humans who are familiar to them in their present state appears to be an effective way to transmit the information in a non-excitatory way. He wants to say in a way that doesn't get people kind of like overly excited or freaked out, or like, that creates too much of a stir. He wants to say that, but he can't find the right word to say it, and I can't think of it in this state. And this is what happens in channeling. When you switch off and they come through, there's this middle place where they have to be able to find the words within you to express them through you. But at the same time, you're switched off, so you can't access your vocabulary very well. And you will find that in my channeling, I struggle sometimes with words, to pronounce words, and that's because it's them speaking through me. It's a kind of energetic mechanism that's happening, and sometimes it's not always perfect. And if you speak to people who learn to channel light language, they'll say that initially it comes out as a kind of very slurring, lots of very slurring sounds, and eventually comes to form. So it's a process to get that bit right sometimes, to get all the words to come out in the right way. And it's really the control of the brain and the mouth in synthesis. All right, Dimitri, what do you want to tell me about this? What is this scientific information? So I'm thinking, if you explain it as if you're speaking to somebody who will understand what you're talking about, and not to me, because I think partially the barrier is that you're trying to explain it to me, and it's not something that I understand. This is not the barrier. The barrier is that your physical mind is trying to maintain a level of control over your thought processes, and thus intervene at some occasions whereby particular words or expressions are used in order to analyze the information that is coming through. As you become more relaxed into the channeling mode, this will fall away, and it will be simpler for us to communicate our desires. And for today, the message that we have is to do with the substratification, the subatomic level. We are discussing a level at which is unseen to the human eye, to the human experience, and processes that occur there that may support the scientific evolution and understanding of certain phenomena that you are studying but do not yet understand fully. And we would urge you to understand that this is an evolution. It is not that your current understanding is to be diminished or seen as wrong. It is an evolution. It is a building of further growing potential information that may be added to the common understanding that you already have around this phenomena. And so the layers, the substrates or layers of your reality, of your earth, particles within them, the atoms, as you so define them, they are not necessarily composed in the way in which you deem them to be composed. And therefore, this means that your understanding of how they interact with each other is slightly misunderstood. This affects your capacity to develop phenomenon. He wants to say air travel, quantum travel, and he's giving me the idea of once you understand how to move particles of metal or a body of matter through reality from one place to another, then you can begin to understand the same mechanism within your human self. Again, it's something to do with hydrogen. What information is going to support us in evolving our understanding of these? The substratified layers of your reality are not succinct with the dimensions of time and space. They are unified in their disposition and extending through all dimensions of time and space. So I think in simple terms, you're saying that everything exists throughout all time and space. They're not defined by time and space, correct? He says, yes, correct. But also the substratified layers. This is highly important that you understand the substratified layers. Additionally, do not exist within the confines of time and space. What this means is that when they vibrate, they are switching back and forth, back and forth, back and forth between realities, between vibrational realities, distinct vibrational realities. When you understand their nature in this manner, the substratified layers of your reality, understanding of reality, is not in harmony with the truth of reality. And this is your greatest limitation in terms of your evolution. We would argue that you cannot move forward in your processes of quantum mechanics without embodying a more holistic approach to the ideas of substratification and substratified particles. There is more information within the concepts of quantum cages, quantum entanglement, analysis of plasma transfer. The quantum mechanical substratification as the process by which we are unifying all frameworks into one. This means that ultimately the nature of reality has no differences between it. It is a unified principle of understanding the universal structures. All is unified. This is the advancement of your scientific knowledge that is occurring now and will continue to occur through unification, through the discovery of a single principle that provides unification to all theories and constructs about the nature of your reality. This is the aspect of scientific understanding that you are missing, and it is defined by the issue that you are not willing to combine your understanding of the nature of reality to all facets of reality. You are still in the mindset of separate science. When you discover that there is one unified theory or scientific concept that applies to all, because it applies to the fundamental nature of your reality. This is when your science will become much more advanced, and you will discover this within 10 years. This is a short time. However, there will be a need to, although this understanding is emerging now, there will be a need to test and evidence the principles against the background of existence, your existence. We present a unified theory of everything. This theory allows time travel, teleportation. It allows the vibrational quality of your reality to shift you in and out of time and space in various pockets of time and space into and master the focus of which into a paradigm which enables you to overcome much of your limitations of human nature if you consider the idea of the crystalline structure, the quasi-crystalline structure, if you consider your biology as a quasi-crystalline structure, if you consider your physics as a quasi-crystalline structure, if you consider all facets of reality as a quasi-crystalline structure, only then will you begin to understand the true nature of your reality, and only then will you begin to understand how you might foresee your future within new technology. The derivative of the quasi-crystalline structure, the derivatives of the quasi-crystalline structure will guide you towards the most potent outcomes